this part, I will be talking about the 6 different types of web-based cookies. I listed them in part 1, but now we're going to talk about them in detail. Now, the very first type of cookies is the session cookies. Now, these are the most common type of cookies, meaning majority of the websites have session cookies enabled. Now, from my research, session cookies are temporary cookies. What does this mean, temporary cookies? What this means is that once you close your browser or you end your session, the cookies are deleted from your browser. That's why they're called session cookies, because they exist for as long as you are browsing on that particular website. So I'm going to repeat that. Session cookies are actually the most common type of cookies, and they are temporary because once you close the browser, these cookies are going to be deleted from your device browser. Now, because they're very temporary, they're actually labeled as the least harmful type of cookies on the internet. Yeah. The second type of cookies is called persistent cookies. I'm sure by now you can already guess what type of cookies these are. Persistent cookies are also known as tracking cookies. They stay on your device's browser until they reach an expiry date. So every persistent cookie has its own expiry date, and the person who sets this expiry date is the person who encoded them. So some could last for a year, some could last for a month, or maybe it's time bound, maybe every 3 hours they get deleted. So persistent cookies last way longer than session cookies because they have an expiry date, and they do not get deleted simply because you closed your browser. They're often used to store information about the user that is beneficial for the owner of the website from a long-term purpose. So that's why they last long, because whatever information they will be collecting is going to help both you, the user, and them, the owner of the website, long-term. What type of information do they collect? They collect information such as your content preference, things like the language you selected, the different themes. Some websites allow you to choose a theme. They also collect information about different pages you visited. Maybe you stayed longer on one page, or you have a tendency of going from one page to another. Basically how you browse and what your preferences are. They can also collect information such as what you added to a cart. So if you visited an e-commerce website and you were doing your window shopping and added a lot of items to your cart, but you didn't actually complete the checkout process, these persistent cookies will save that information. This information is tied to that one site that you visited. So if you closed that site and you went to a different one, the persistent cookies of that session, the previous session, will only stay with the information that they got during your session. They are not able to collect whatever you're doing in the other person's website. Yeah, I think that's very key to notice. They are relatively safe because they don't really take information about you that could be used against you, you know. But they do have a disclaimer that when you're logging into these websites, you should not do it on a public network. A public network would be like if you went to an internet cafe or a restaurant that has Wi-Fi, or maybe a hotel. You should not log into such websites using these public networks, because an outsider could easily collect the same information. Yeah. So yeah, that is persistent cookies. The third type of cookies is secure cookies. And as you guessed it, these type of cookies are encrypted, which means they only work when being used on a secure connection. So you know how there's some websites when you log in, you get this error page that says this is not a secure network or connection? That's because that particular website you're about to visit has not been certified as a secure site. Now, secure cookies only exist on websites that have been certified as secure sites. It's also known as an HTTPS. So like the URL of the website at the very beginning, it will have an S. So it won't just be HTTP, it will have an S at the end, and the certificate is called an SSL certificate. I know it's too technical. Sorry guys. But anyway, secure cookies are there, they're encrypted, and they only work on websites that have been certified as secure. Now, because of this, they're actually the hardest to hack into, and they're normally used for financial transaction pages. So think of it as the checkout page on an e-commerce site where you're actually processing a payment. You know, you will enter your card details. Some of you will use PayPal, M-Pesa, etc., etc. So these cookies can be used for such pages. Also like banking transaction pages. So it's usually for financial transactions, and this is because they are encrypted. Let's look at the fourth type of cookies. This is called the HTTP only cookies. So the names are very suggestive, by the way. So this is similar to a session cookie, the very first one I explained. The only difference is that they can only be used on a website that is on a HTTP protocol. So the secure sites with HTTPS, they would not work with an HTTP only cookie. Now, again, they do have a security risk because they're not encrypted. Then we have the third-party cookies. These are cookies that belong to someone else. So you visited my website, let's say digitalkswithtracy.com, and I have my cookies there. But now third-party cookies are cookies that belong to someone else but were actually sent to my website to collect information about you, the visitor. Where do these cookies come from? They often come from advertisers or advertising networks. So these networks have their own cookies, and they send them out to different websites. But obviously these websites are aware that this is happening, and they've actually given consent to the advertising network to collect this information about you, the user. Now, how it works is that, you know, those websites you visit and there's ads running on them. Those ads are the ones that actually send out the cookies. And these cookies are again saved on your browser, your device's browser, but they only work for that advertiser's network. So another advertising network cannot use these cookies for their own benefit. Yeah. Now, what these cookies collect is your browsing history, and they can collect your browsing history across different websites. That's why they're third party, because they're not tied down to one website. So if you went from my website to, let's say, another website, maybe you want to book an air ticket, or you want to go and shop, or you're just reading a blog. So all these three websites that you visited, these advertisers can collect your information across all three using the same cookies you accepted on my website. Now, these have a very high security risk because they can collect way too much information. So unlike the other types of cookies, the third-party cookies could be collecting information that can be used for malicious purposes by other people. And that is why platforms such as Google have started having issues with third-party cookies. Yes, they help advertisers come up with more targeted ads for us, but then there is a security risk involved because you really don't know what information they are collecting. Also, they can be easily hacked into, because remember, they don't belong to me, the website owner. They belong to the advertising network. So depending on how they secure, or rather encrypt the cookies, anyone could hack into it and I wouldn't know, yet you got those cookies from my website. That's why they are a bit of an issue. Then the last type of cookies is zombie cookies. These are cookies that can recreate themselves even after they have been deleted. So, earlier I mentioned that you can actually, these cookies can be deleted, like the session cookies can be deleted once you close the browser. Now, zombie cookies recreate themselves after they are deleted. They are usually used by web analytics services, so like Google Analytics. So what they do is these cookies do not store themselves on the browser. They're actually stored outside of the browser. They are able to collect information about the user across different websites as long as they're using the same device. And the reason they exist is because they don't want to create too much fragmentation, because you see, you're the same user going to different websites and they are an analytics platform, so they don't want to create multiple users yet it's the same person. So the reason they recreate themselves is to make sure they're consolidating all this information about your browsing behavior into one user profile. As you can guess, they are very high risk and they can be used for malicious purposes. The recommendation is to have security programs or software that can identify such cookies and remove them for you, because you will not get them in your normal browser settings. Remember, like I said, they're not stored on your browser, but they exist. So if you want to make sure you don't have any zombie cookies following you, you can actually look for security software that can track them and remove them for you. So yeah, those are the 6 different types of cookies. In the final part of this video, part 3, I will be talking about whether we should be concerned or happy about cookies, web-based cookies, and also the different ways you can protect yourself from the risk